Hey 3DMJers, this is Andrea Valdez, and you're listening to the 3D Muscle Journey podcast. Today, I'm talking to Alberto Nunez and Brad Loomis about what it means to be a natural lifter in 2020. We haven't addressed what drug-free is all about on this podcast in about 3 years, and a lot has changed since then. No, there isn't a new banned substance list or some secret technique on how to make faster gains while still passing polygraphs and urine tests, but there is a wholly different world of support and education for enhanced lifters, and we wanted to acknowledge that today. In this episode, you'll hear us chat about the reasons Brad and Alberto have stayed natural throughout their career, the recent internal conflict Brad has had with his urge to take banned substances, how the guys deal with accusations about themselves or their athletes being on performance-enhancing drugs, how much we've changed our perception, vocabulary, and all-around attitude towards the enhanced lifting community, and despite this gradual shift in perspective, why we still choose to only work with natural athletes as a business and coaching company. This isn't one of our how-to-ish episodes, but more of an examination of a shift in our industry and the ways we've seen it both divide and unite lifters from across the world. We would love to hear your comments on this one, so please leave them for us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/team3dmj, or on our website at 3dmusclejourney.com, and leave it under podcast number 159. So let's get into it. Here is Natty or Not, We're All Just Lifters with Brad Loomis and Alberto Nunez. I'm so glad, Berto, that we have you because, in general, yes, but on this podcast, because I don't know anybody who gets as much shit for being not natural who is natural more than you. It's because your skin, right?
Yeah. You know what? It never
placenta.
It never does. It's like someone saying, "Bro, you are a pink elephant." I'm like, I'm really not. Like, you just got to trust me on this. So it's just weird, I guess. But I've never. It's never a direct assault like on my character. Like, they never describe the steps that I go through, I guess, and maybe that's why there's a little disconnect there. Yeah. So. Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Is it hurtful?
No.
Was it ever hurtful?
No. I think that's why I've been able to endure the internet for so long. Sometimes I do feel like there's something maybe wrong with me because people will say something that just goes over my head. I'm like, oh, that's cool, Where'd you get your shoes, bro? So, yeah. No, all love here. No, not at all. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just people who haven't seen like if you play team sports, like there's just these kids that like just stick out, and then you make it really far with your team, and I don't know, you play this big school and you're like, oh crap, this kid's like our kid would be kind of a normal kid there, and it's a big world, and you get exposed to enough of that, and someone just finds the right sport, and hey, things get pretty wacky. So yeah, I mean, we've seen the Kevin Rileys, the Enzimas. Like when I told everyone Enzima's body weight and height, they're like, "No way," and I'm like, "No, but trust me, like he is," and we all know, like, now for sure, fantastic.
For the listeners, he's a giant.
Oh, he's insane.
Tell everybody how big he is.
I'd say he's about Eric's height, maybe an inch taller.
So 6'2"?
About 6. Eric's, I guess,
3.
Eric just took an inch off his height, so Eric's like 6 feet tall, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So 6 and some change for Eric, and Seema's maybe 6'1" and some change. So just to be more exact than I need to be. But yeah, so off season, he was rolling around in the mid 260s, and he just looked like. Not only did he look like an NFL tight end, he looked like that NFL tight end that was like a health freak as well. That just owns a $3,000 juicer. So I'm like, this dude's going to be like 230 pounds on stage. Usually for someone that height, it's like, all right, like you're going to make it somewhere in the 180s, 190s. That's usually what matches up with that height. But it's like, you got an extra 30, 40 pounds on you. But, all of us here, we have trained eyes. We look at him and it's like, okay, yeah, we can he looks natural. It's just a huge human being. Yeah.
Yeah. Brad, have you ever been accused of not being nutty?
Very, very rarely. Very
But it's
rarely.
happened.
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened, but I probably can count on my left hand, minus my thumb.
What about your
how many
right hand?
times I've accused? Yeah, exactly. That's non-existent.
Was it when you were in season?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Because whenever you're in season, you always look bigger than you are. It creates
And it was in
that
pictures,
illusion.
huh?
Pictures. Yeah. And not just natural as far as anabolic steroids go, but I would always get accused of taking like some sort of a cutting agent, or taking some sort of one time at an NPC show, a guy asked me how much Lasix I took and how much weight, water dropped I weighed because of how quote unquote dry, I looked, so yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, that's one of the 4 times that I got accused of not being natty, so yeah, but I can say that I think the rest of us get hurt more than Alberto does, when people start coming at him.
Yeah, Eric loses it. Berto's the reason
yeah.
Eric can't read YouTube comments.
He
gets too mad.
Best way to do it is if you can't. Yeah.
Well, and Jeff too. Jeff gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somehow Berto's just got that that shield of that emotional cord on him that keeps him from crying in his Wheaties or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I can think of all the times that he's been accused. It's been more than I've been accused, and I take that harder than when I get it myself.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. Why does it make you so upset when Berto gets accused of that? Like, when you say upset, is it mad, angry, sad?
I think it's a combination of angry and sad. Angry just because I think just like anything in this world, when people show how stupid they are, it's like, look at Alberto there and look at ex bodybuilder on the NPC stage. There's no way that Alberto is not natural. It's like comparing apples to oranges, and it's these stupid people that don't know what true enhanced bodybuilders look like. Probably haven't seen them up front, right in front of their face, in real life. It just shows their ignorance, and they claim, well, I'm not a fool for it. I'm like, no, you're a fool for thinking the way that you think, because you're proclaiming something you don't know. And so that anger comes out in me right off the bat. Well, then of course the sadness comes out, like anything else in the world, when somebody accuses somebody that they have no idea who they are. They don't know their name. They know their name. That's the only thing they know, but they don't know their character. They don't really know anything about their history, their past. They don't know them. And they're just assuming that this person would, be that dishonest, And so that's when the sadness comes out.
I get it. So it's not, I like at the very end there, like all came together. You're like, it's that it's an attack on the character. It's not like,
an attack,
because you're not mad that people would take steroids or any type of performance enhancing drugs. It's
not at all.
It's just they're calling my friend a liar more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. They're calling my friend a liar, and they don't know hardly anything about my friend. They know what they see on the screen, and that's all they know, and they don't know, how he grew up. They don't know his home life. They don't know, anything else about him other than what they see on the screen. And so that's when the sadness kind of comes in,
Yeah. And you're right though, like maybe not stupid, just uneducated in what a
you're absolutely right. That's
a bodybuilder.
That's a better.
Go ahead.
That's the right way to say it, because you can hear how charged up I get.
I know. You're so emotional. I love it.
Yeah, I get charged up when people are talking about something so matter of fact that they know nothing about.
Yeah.
Oh, it just angers me. And
then Berto's like, meh.
I guess it's almost benign unless someone believes them, like to me. It's like, oh, let's just move on with it. Yeah, and like you said, Brad, usually they're just misinformed. Like to us, like the difference between enhanced and non-enhanced, like it's more like this is NASCAR, this is Indy, like that's,
It's just a different
and,
division.
and to us it's like quit calling NASCAR Indy. Like this is, it's look at it, it's very different. Um, yeah, and surely there's people who use it, probably look natural, but that's different. But like I think to the seasoned competitor, someone who does it, like and like is really about it, like yeah, they can look at a top level natural guy and be like, yeah, I believe in SEMA is natural, like all the enhanced people I know, that's what they've said about Enzima. It's like, yeah, like big, but it's like you can tell, it's just nothing about it that screams enhanced, despite
Okay.
how crazy that is.
I'm gonna ask y'all if you could possibly explain when you say you can tell. Try to tell people how you can tell, both y'all.
Yeah, to be honest with you, to me, it's all the proportion. When you're even slightly enhanced, things just don't mesh together correctly. Like when you say a good balanced physique, nothing really is super overpowering. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, they have a strong set of delts, and usually there's a reason why, but everything else fits together. Or they have, like with Encimas, is just his quads. His quads are so massive, but it's just they're a tiny bit out of proportion with, like, say his upper body, his delts or his biceps. They're just a tiny bit out of proportion. But when you see even slightly enhanced, even just lifters, things stand out more. Like for me, the obvious one is usually the traps. The traps are grossly overdeveloped compared to the delts, the chest, and all of the surrounding muscle groups. And so yeah, it's just things. Whenever you're enhanced, your strong body parts become like more enhanced. That's the only way I could really say it. You know what I mean? If say that you've got really good quads, your quads are ridiculously big in proportion to the rest of your body, but yeah, just things don't flow together the right way. Either they have a big gut, or they have, huge traps or ridiculous quads. That things don't flow like they should. And sometimes it's even like the midsection. Sometimes the midsection just looks totally out of proportion with everything else. But I'm sure Alberto's going to have a whole lot better.
No, I like what you said. It doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in. It's more, because here's the thing. It's like people who have picked that route responsibly. Like, well, see, like my goal is like, I want to be superhuman. Like it's like beyond like what the human body can do, right? So when you go to WNBF Worlds and you look at like the best bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders on the planet, it's as impressive as it is. You're like, wow, this is the human body. Like you come back to that. It's like, wow, this is a freaking human being that just carved all this out, that put all this together. And then when you look at those guys, it's just kind of like, this is like superhuman. Like this is just something that doesn't exist in nature. And it's a very visceral thing. Like if you've been doing this long enough where it just hits you and you're like, okay, yeah, this is outside of the norm. Obviously there's people who like they rushed it a little bit and they enhanced to kind of look like a real good natural bodybuilder, and that's might be dosage dependent, might be because it's premature, but generally speaking, if we're talking about like the top people, like that's what we're speaking about here. Yeah, that's the main difference. Is like like Sam, whoever, like as good as he looks, like I can't help but think like, damn, like this is a human body, like maxed out. And like when I saw, who was it, Johnny Jackson in person in Branch Warren, I'm like, this is like subhuman. This is like Marvel comic book status that we have on here. So yeah, it's different goals, and I mean they're both impressive in their own way, and like I guess yeah, mad respect to both sides, because I grew up with the enhanced side. Like that's what got all the media. My Natural Bodybuilding magazine would come around quarterly, so. Yeah, it was the blue-collar hard workers and the IFBB that I admired the most.
I thought it was the other way. I don't know how often that happens, but like I didn't know. Like my first show was NPC, and I didn't know that not everyone. I didn't know that I was on stage with other girls that were on stuff. I like saw the magazines or whatever. This is like 2009, 10. I saw the magazines. I was like, man, if I work hard, I can do that. Okay. Not female bodybuilding. It's weird. Like I knew the female bodybuilders, that's top of the line female NPC bodybuilders. That might be an extreme. Like when y'all say it can tell men natty versus enhanced at the top end of bodybuilding. If you're not quite sure, look at the females and then you'll understand them about like proportions that just don't occur in nature. Yeah. So, but I thought that the figure girls, I didn't really like because they weren't that, almost like, I don't want to say
Extreme.
cartoonish, but like kinda, like because it wasn't the way that female bodybuilders were, I didn't know that they were on anything. That's a common practice nowadays. But I didn't know that then. Also, Berto, I like that you said that there was a difference between like top of the line pro enhanced bodybuilders, and then there's probably 10 guys at every Gold's Gym that just want to look.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd say here in the gyms, it's almost like if you go to the gym, and nothing against it, it's your choice, but it's like it's as common as people going out and having a drink,
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So it's almost comes with your starter kit. It's just like, hey, while I'm there, I might as well have a drink, So it's kind of normalized to that extent, I feel. It's demonized like less, I think, within and I think it just has to do with some of the good stuff that is out there in social media in regards to this topic. Because back in the day, like I'd say when I first started, it was a big no. Like even the most enhanced guy, it was hard to get him to talk about his usage. Whereas like now, I get told more than I want to hear most of the time. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and I think that's important too, is to talk about that, because I mean I've never judged nor just thought less than of any person that was using. I mean, I don't care if it was just pro hormones or straight up synthetic testosterone. I to me it's to each his own.
Yeah.
Some people prefer to be vegan. Some people prefer to be carnivore. They're not. They're just two people that choose to eat a specific way. And I think that's really important to kind of get that out there. Is that especially nowadays? I think that it is, at least in the natural bodybuilding world, it's a little bit more of a nicer world, because I mean back in the day. It was like the skeletons in your closet. You didn't talk about them. You didn't drag them out of the closet. And now people are a little bit more like Berto said. You see it quite a bit in gyms. Where people, instead of discussing their macros, they're kind of discussing their particular cycles that they're gonna use. And it's I don't know anything about it, but I would imagine that it's not to the extreme doses that you hear about, the horror stories that you hear about of the doses that people use, it's just kind of casual talking away. And I mean, shoot, I mean, I'll admit, being a 48-year-old guy who has days where I don't feel like getting off the couch, it's awfully tempting to want to get that vigor back from when I was in my mid to upper 30s, when I felt like I was at my best, when I was really like on top of my game and I really had that fifth gear that I could just go nuts. It's tempting. It's tempting to do something that is just out of the realm of competition. I just want to feel like I did back then. It's very tempting just to take a simple dose of DHEA or something,
Yeah. Go ahead, Bert.
No, I was going to say, with it being so common, I'm not saying, I don't know that it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that it is. And I'm just glad that people aren't judged on that no more, because it used to be like when someone found out so-and-so took stuff,
Oh my God.
Like it's like literally killed someone's dog was like the vibe, you know. So that part, I'm glad that is sorted out. Again, like I don't know if these people are using responsibly or not, but I'd say if you go to a good gym, you take 4 dudes that are 4 or 5 times a week kind of people, and not just chest bros. Usually, I'd say there's at least a 50% chance that they're buying a drink, so to speak.
Yeah. I know that we had a post on IG like a few months ago where I was like, hey, this is I wrote it, but it was from one of our conversations that was just why we only work with natural athletes. And like y'all said, it used to be a thing that like, oh shit, someone's on the gear, by like they'd get canceled. But it's never been like that with us. It's always been from a place of like, we want to be good at what we do as coaches, and we want to be in control of the things that we know. And if someone is taking banned substances, it changes things in your body, and we don't exactly know those things, and our coaches aren't as comfortable working with it. I mean, that it's kind of it, right?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's very much a healthy respect for what we don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it boils down to, because yeah, you're right. I mean, I've seen people's changes, and I've seen in people that I know, like I've worked with before, or that I know fairly well, and just through training with them, but I never necessarily worked with them. And so these people, how they tick, how they work, and kind of how their bodies work. And just all of a sudden things just don't make sense anymore. It's like the way that they did work, and the way that that they did work, they don't work that way anymore. It just doesn't make sense. And so why I don't need to try to add it, make it harder than it already is. You know what I mean? To add something and a variable that I'm not even familiar with, to try to make sense of that, or figure out, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, and this is why that, and this is why that. I can't even really start to even decipher all of that,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically a healthy respect of what we don't know is the bottom line.
Yeah. And it's hard because when we posted that or whatever, a lot of people are like, hey, I respect you for staying in your lane. And then there's some people that are like, yeah, like, because, you know what I mean? Because like, you are the good guys. And it's like, well, it wasn't supposed to be that way. It wasn't like a stance on whether this is right or wrong. It's just like, hey, there's going to be better coaches for you who are familiar with that, because we're just not. Everything is polarizing, y'all.
Yeah.
We humans like it that way. It's way easier. You don't have to really sit down and think about it, but it's not a fair approach. And I mean, I'll admit I've had times where I have seen it, like, it's like, oh, that's that other side, but I think a lot of it was just marked off, perhaps running into certain individuals who were on that side, who I was not necessarily impressed by, right? So, and then time goes on, you meet more people, and you're like, man, like, you're super dope. When I went to the Arnold last time, I was the only natty in the cage. Yeah. I was like, thank you guys. I got invited to the barbecue. So.
Oh, congrats! You're part of the animal pack.
Yeah, they gave me a shirt and everything.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm so proud we had representation there from 3D.
Yeah, just creating bridges. But yeah, I've met a lot of fantastic people on both sides, like, to tell you the truth. And then the same way, and then, time goes on, and I've seen natural guys who literally, they still think that way, where like that whole side is fucked up.
It's the dark side.
And I'm like, please, like, I'm not with this dude. Like, I'd much rather kick it with my boy with the traps over there. Like it's it doesn't necessarily, what you do with your body, doesn't necessarily imply who you are as a person. And I wish more people understood that, because again, like one thing we have in common is we're all like super passionate about this.
Yeah.
Like at the end, we have way more to like talk about than to argue about. And I mean, like since I've moved here, because like back in Sacramento, like we had like that Natty contingency. Like that gym is like literally the posters of basically everyone up on that wall. Right? They're almost all natural bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And it came here, and it wasn't that way. And then like word gets around, oh, it's that Natty dude. And I think the first few years, like people had these misconceptions, like, oh, he's like judgy, he thinks he's holding. And then they get to know me, and it's like, oh, okay, like you're cool, you're dope, you like this stuff, and we have way more in common than we actually don't at the end of the day, Here we are both bitching about the chicken prices,
Well, it's funny too, like that says more about their insecurities than your, like when you're like, oh, he's natural, so he must think that we're pieces of shit because we're not. And it's like, you never said that. But it's the same as like Brad likened it to like being a vegetarian. Oh, so you think you're better than me? It's like, no, that's just what I want to do, bro.
Yeah. And I'm sure maybe they ran into bad reps for like our side. Maybe, maybe they told a few of their close friends that I've decided to do this, and the response was, so on top of maybe what they've experienced, it's like, and then you have this dude that according to most people who are ignorant to this, he's doing it like the right way, so, because I mean, I've been on that side too, where it's like, forget you NPC guys with your frosted tips and your rented convertible, like these like stereotypes I'm inventing in my head. So yeah, but
I like how I can visually see your enhanced like avatar. That's nice.
In another dimension, like that.
What's his name, do you think? Actually, don't do it because someone will be named it. Don't give him a name. But I can think of 3 we'll talk about after this. 3 names. It's got to be one of them.
What's going on, 3DMJers? Eric Helms here. Thanks for listening to our podcast. I just want to take a second to tell you about MASS, Monthly Applications in Strength Sport. This is a monthly research review that I put out with Greg Knuckles, Dr. Mike Zerdos, and Dr. Eric Trexler, where we cover the most up-to-date, peer-reviewed research in the world of strength and physique sport that's directly relevant to your practice as a coach or an athlete. We provide our reviews in written format, but also, since you enjoy our podcast, in audio roundtable reviews where we discuss the research in depth. Finally, we also do video concept reviews where we cover a broader topic in video format for your learning. For fitness professionals, you can take quizzes on MASS content and earn continuing education credits for most of the biggest certifying bodies in the fitness industry. If you want to sign up and get a subscription, head over to 3dmusclejourney.com and click on the products tab. Thanks for your time, and thanks for listening.
Okay, so I think we set the stage that like it's just a different decision, a different personal decision, whatevs. But why was it neither of y'all's personal decisions? Brad, go. Why did you ever decide that wasn't your route?
Really, to be honest with you, it was just more so, it's just the adult thing to do, I guess, because
in your head,
and not only in my head, but it was just, here I am, I'm an adult, I'm a business owner, I'm a dad, and keep in mind, this is mid to late 2000s, right? And at the time, it was not, for the most part, except for over-the-counter pro hormones, like the steroids were illegal. You could not get those without a prescription. And you could not get those, unless, you were seeing, some sort of a doctor, which shoot, I mean, those kind of youth doctors, they probably didn't even exist back then. And so it basically just kind of boiled down to, I can't do something that would put myself, my business, and my family, in jeopardy, because in order to get steroids,
like
you were going to have,
exactly.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You were going to need to get it from out of the country, and you were going to need to somehow get get it here, or you were going to have to get it from somebody that got it out of the country, you know? And so that was the biggest reason early on. And then of course, later on down the road, as things kind of became a little bit more easy to get, it was just kind of one of those things where, you know, we started up about late 2000s, 09, 2010, 2011. And I felt like I needed to live the life of the people that I was coaching. You know, I need to understand how hard it was to experience when the testosterone drops. I need to know how hard it was to keep progressing when, you know, you're dropping body fat and you're losing your strength and you're losing your leverages. And I felt like I needed to feel what they were feeling, because then it made me a better coach, you know? And it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like a coach of a football team that's never played football before, just sending kids out there in their pads and saying, that's okay. That's where you got your pads on. It ain't going to hurt. You know, it's like, you've never been out there. When you get hit,
It
you know,
still
especially hard, pads or no pads, it freaking hurts, you know? And so I kind of felt like I needed to kind of be that coach that had been on the football field and knew how much it hurt to just get decleated and be looking out the ear hole in your helmet, you know? I needed to live what they were living in order to coach what they were doing.
Yeah. And what about now?
Oof.
Okay, we'll
Good
talk about it in a little
question.
bit. We'll talk about it in a little bit. We'll talk in a little bit. Berto, what has kept you yeah, because I really, after this, like, let's do talk about how it's different now for everybody. But like, how have you made it this far without you know, I'm gonna stop there. Without.
I'd say that, so out of all the sports I played, this is the one that like made me a workhorse, because I was a workhorse when it came to the competing part, because that to me is like, that's really what it's about, you know? And yeah, like if you're just competing, like not scared, it's like things turn out like really well. But this one was different, and it was cool to see like, oh, like my progress piles on top of my progress, and I found that just like so unique. And then it got tricky, because, you know, initially it was just like, man, from week to week I'm just adding weights on everything, like every set to failure too, you know? We're like doing freaking full body. So, you know, it's going really, really well. And then at some point it's like, okay, well, you know, those other sports are done. Like, what do I do next? And pickup basketball just was not cutting it anymore. So I'm like, you know what, this weight thing, let's really go after it. And then, well, I think I realized that just how much of a difference like the enhancement made. So there was one of my training partners. He ended up winning teen nationals at a certain point.
Teen nationals?
And teen NPC teen nationals, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He actually edged out Steve Kukla, who was like top 5 Olympia right now. And I just remember, you know, like seeing him go from like that to that, like the competitiveness in me just came out, you know. And I'm like, oh, it's like, okay, so I need to step up my game and maybe try this at a certain point. But the only thing that kind of stopped me is that up until that point, like when it came to other substances, I had been very responsible, absurdly responsible. Like my high school experience was like nothing the way I think most people would imagine. So I'm like, what if this is like the thing that like really, you know, because it's like you combine that with competitiveness, and if like this dude who's like, I think I'm more talented than is getting by on me, and I think I know why that is, like, you know, it becomes a game of chicken. Like, I mean, Brad, you know, like in football, like if you're a wide receiver and you get those alligator arms going over the middle, you won't catch that ball because you're afraid you're going to get hit. You're just not going to start. Like, that's going to be someone else's position. Like, you know, at the end, like competitive sports are about winning. So, so I'm like, fuck, no, that can just be a horrible rabbit hole. So I'm just going to stick this out a little bit longer, kind of sit on it a little bit more. Up until that point, still the majority of my training partners were enhanced. That was actually, one of my training partners was like the dealer in like all the gyms like out there. And like he broke this to me like many, I think, years into like being friends. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that. And he's like, yeah, just, I don't do business at the gym, so it's, whatever. So yeah. So more than anything at that point, it was just that bodybuilding had like etched these really good habits, changed my character for the better, and kept me out of trouble. So I'm like, okay, I don't know where this will lead. I don't think I am qualified or old enough to make this decision right now. So it's going relatively well. Let's just keep doing it this way. Like I'm training with these dudes and like they're all on stuff, but like I'm still part of that group. So things are going okay, and then yeah, things went really well, and I guess here we are. Fast forward, 21 years, and
Hey, 21 years.
Yeah, my lifting can drink. So.
Okay, so the last time we talked about this on the podcast was like over 3 years ago, and I would really
Wow.
like to hear. I know, right? Oh my God, we've been doing this podcast a long time. Anyways, okay. So, how have things changed for y'all in the last 3 years in regards to this particular topic? Have you maybe leaned more or further away from the decision of ever doing this, ever taking performance enhancing agents of any sort? And or how has the industry changed? I think I want to ask Brad about the first comment, and then Berto, I know you have a lot more contacts with people who compete on that side of things, so I'd like to hear that. Brad, tell me about you.
Okay. Sheesh.
Yeah, we've had talks about this as a team, so it's the
Yes.
first time we're talking about on the podcast.
A couple of times now, a couple of
Yeah.
times I needed counsel, right? So, I mean, let's face it. I'm 48 years old, and I'm not Jeff Alberts, clearly.
What do you mean by that?
And just look at the physiques, it's kind of like, I don't know what Jeff's testosterone level is, but it's probably higher than mine, and Jeff seems to have a little bit more zest to his step than I do.
I've seen Jeff naked. His balls are huge.
And that's how you know what your testosterone levels are.
Shows they there's a scale and you place them there and they decide.
Yeah, that's why you wear the little Speedos, because you can just like
They weigh our
pull
balls.
it to the side and then cover it back up. Yeah.
So all females basically pass the drug test. It's like
yeah, because you can't weigh the ovaries.
we'll edit that out. We'll decide.
No, we'll never edit that out.
How the heck
It's
did we get down
science.
that?
That's how you measure it.
Hashtag science. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? Okay, so yeah, I'm your typical 48-year-old dude, right? And I do have low testosterone. It kind of depends on when I get my blood levels checked and what's going on in my life as far as, if I'm currently gaining weight or losing weight, or if training's going good or I'm not training, or, what have you. And so, yeah, I mean, the thoughts cross my mind. I don't feel as good now as I did in my mid to late 30s. I don't have the zest in my step. I don't have that fifth gear to really, just kill myself in the gym, and it's not a easy thing to grasp. It's not an easy thing to admit, especially when you are, God gave me, just like Alberto and you guys, he gave me an extra dose of competitiveness, and it pisses me off when I can't do the things that I used to do, but outside of that, sometimes it's just hard to get off couch, sometimes it's just hard to, wake up from that nap and just boom, get going again. It takes a couple of hours, and so, yeah, I'm not going to say that I've thought about going to those doctors that can prescribe you therapeutic levels of hormone replacement, but it has crossed my mind. Okay, well, maybe I can take a harmless dose of DHEA or something like that, because that's a supplement that's over the counter. I can research it. It's on examine.com. It's been shown to help guys like me in certain doses and things like that, and so, yeah, it has been extremely tempting. Again, I haven't gone there because I coach 48, 50, 55-year-old guys, And I got to kind of know what they're living. I got to kind of know what they're going through. And I got to kind of know how hard it is to progress and how hard it is sometimes to just get in the freaking gym, much less look at what you did last workout or last block or what coach has for me planned at this time. Sometimes that's a hard thing to do when you're our age. And so I got to be able to relate to them, and it's going to make me a better coach, and it's going to give me better tools and better strategies and repertoire in my arsenal to give to them to help them succeed. You know what I mean? That's kind of the big thing that's kind of stopping me at this point is this. If I'm coaching that life, I should probably live that life too. So
it's like a duty kind of thing, like a being an example and just
a duty to my craft, a duty to our trade, of what it is that we're doing, And so just like I don't think that I can honestly say that I would not feel comfortable coaching somebody my age that was taking stuff, DHEA or therapeutic doses of hormone replacement. If I was taking that, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable coaching natural athletes, 100% natural guys my age that were experiencing what I'm experiencing, because how can I say, oh, well, it's not that hard. All you do is just take my medicine in the morning and then go to it. I can't really
do that. You wouldn't do that.
Of course I wouldn't. But at the same time, in my mind, it's kind of like, I can't relate, I can't see what they're seeing and can't feel what they're feeling. So, but yeah, that's me. And then outside of that, like we said, it's just like, we've always kind of thought, I don't really care, if you're taking stuff. I don't care if you decided to, if you were, 100% natty and now you decided you want to do whatever, I'm not going to judge you. Go for it. You're probably going to be happier. You're probably going to be happier because now you're actually feeling like you're getting the results that you've been after all these years for all the hard work that you've been doing, like me, you might just have a better life now. You might have more productive days and happier family life, etc. And so, yeah, it's just on that side of it there. I'm glad that we don't call it the dark side anymore because that was the term for a lot of years. That was the term for a lot of years. And it was not, if there's one thing, like you hardly ever see Alberto get mad. Really hardly ever do you see him get fuming. And I've seen people like get in his face and he doesn't really get fuming. But if you want to get Berto fuming about something, start talking about the dark side and referring to it in that. And what do you think, Berto? Is he on, that there? That'll get Berto a little bit riled up.
That there. I forgot about that.
Celtech was the lingo.
On that there. I forgot about it. Oh, 2013 was so great. Oh, that's funny. No, thanks for sharing that, Brad. I know that's not like an easy thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like we'll always revisit it as a team and with you and whatever. And like for the listeners, we totally have had people who have been on our roster that say, hey, I really want to start doing this, and we're like, okay, well, we wish you the best. Like we just don't think we're the best people to work with you right now. It's sad, but it's our mission statement, and that's it.
Yeah, they're powerful compounds, especially what competitors use. Like some of those things are used for people who have cancer and are wasting away. Like that's, those are some of the lower tier ones. So with us, it's like please be careful. Like, just know you need something. I got you. But in terms of looking over your stuff, we're definitely not qualified.
Yeah. Okay, Berto, tell me how since 2017, or like I know maybe you always have had, but I know like recently, again, like you said, you moved to Colorado, so you're in a different crowd, but also you are very with it, very woke, very, very up on the, you got invited to the animal pack cage. You're obviously a big deal. You have lots of friends. And, you said the industry has become like there's like responsible use. They talk about it a lot publicly. It's less of a dark side kind of feel. And like there's actually influencers who base their careers on educating the general population on how to enhance themselves in a respectable way. So tell me about how that's all changed the last few years.
Yeah, there's literally MDs now who are, that's what they've dedicated their time to.
Oh shit! See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and man, there's this one doctor whose stuff, like literally, I'm gonna check this stuff out because I just want to know a little bit more because it is a part of my sport, and I'm gonna learn a lot. And then by the end of it, I'm like, oh shoot, like now I just feel like I know less, after he just went through the whole spiel.
Really?
And yeah, his thing is more so like, look, you're gonna be using this, so you probably need a consultant, when it comes to this sort of stuff. And you might be doing a lot of things wrong that you don't even realize you're doing, things that are probably unnecessary. That just was not available. Like literally, I would venture into the anabolic steroid boards. Like I have usernames like all boards just because it was entertaining. I love the
It's
lingo.
interesting.
And
I mean, either
it
way,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. But people would be getting advice from like the biggest guy on the board quite often. And like, one used to post pictures like ever. It wasn't practical back then, early 2000s. But it's like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, that is terrible. Like these people are just getting advice from like some random name. And, just because things are like spitfiring like off this person's fingertips, it's like he's a qualified person. So the information is so much better. And that was probably the one part that I felt was a little unfair about like our mission statement. Like it was a part that I battled with. I'm like, you know what? Because we're really good at what we do, and those other folks just don't. I didn't feel like at some point had resources that were up to par, and that has changed a lot. And it makes me happy, very happy that it has changed a lot. And yeah, it's like if you're resourceful enough, I'm sure there's people like John Meadows, for example, like just breath of fresh air. So that just was not around. So yeah, things are a lot happier and healthier, I think, on that side.
Yeah, you don't hear like, it's just funny to hear, like, I remember my parents. Okay, but like when I was growing up, actually it's not just my parents. When I was growing up, like hella people still are like, if someone dies who is jacked, they'll say it was because of the steroids all the time. And, or like those like, well, that shit's made for horses. Like I remember people saying that all the time, or like the general public's demonization of steroids and the use of it colloquially. Like it's, so-and-so is da-da-da on steroids. This is the new blah, blah, blah. It's like this, but on steroids. So it's like, it gets a bad rap for sure.
Yeah, and there's definitely, but in all groups, like there's dumbasses,
Yeah.
You can't do anything
Or
about
what's
them.
The synthol, the stuff where you just like
Yeah.
blow up a part of your body.
Just inject, yeah. It's like injecting air into a
That
balloon,
was gotten worse. We used to have that one Greg Valentino dude, and now like every other week there's like a new dummy online that is just, man, like what kind of body dysmorphia must that person be suffering?
Bro, and they have good plastic surgeons. Like, why would you, like go
get the implant.
Some lats.
Man.
They can do lats. I found
Yes.
this stuff today.
Yeah. Man, there's this.
You can get lat.
You can get lat implants. There's this show on Snapchat that, never mind, that I get stuck into sometimes. It's like that. That's like the crazy plastic surgeries. And yeah, the lat one, I've seen the delt ones. I've seen lat calves. Everybody knows about that one.
Yeah.
But they can make it all. And it looks better and it's way safer.
Yeah, it looks clean. It's like, hey, it was more impressive than I thought, and more like, I guess, natural looking, all things considered. Yeah, I was impressed. You got to keep your body fat at a certain level, because then otherwise, like, you'll start seeing like the made in China thing coming out.
Okay, so Berto, let me ask you though, not just how the industry changed, but like has your view on this changed? Like how Brad has had a different perspective the last few years, and maybe a little temptation for the first time, sounds like ever. What about you, Bert?
Yeah.
So, I was on the probation period, and I'm like, at some point I did think that, you know what, like if I want to compete against the best, because natural bodybuilding just didn't do a very good job when it came to like promoting itself at the time.
I didn't even know it was a thing till I found you guys. Or Ogus.
Again, I would wait for my quarterly magazine. I'd be done with it, and at least the stuff I wanted to read, like in 30 minutes. And it's like, all right, well, I'll see you in 4 months, 3 months. But the NPC was just like everywhere, and I'm like, man, I want to be up there with those guys. You know, like I want my IFBB pro card, and so you know, I told myself, like, you know what, like, learn the ropes this way long enough, and then maybe, you know, once you've gotten your pro card and you look decent, you know, maybe you can go that way. But what ended up happening is I exceeded my own expectations when it came to that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what happens when you count calories, because it took me till year 8. So I'm like, man, there's probably all these other things that I'm not doing well. And I was just impressed with what my body could do. So I'm like, you know what, I think I'm sold on this. I'm just going to stick this out. And the competition, I'm like, well, I just finished last in my freaking pro debut. It's like, all right, like there's plenty there. So yeah, at that point I was like, all right, let's just stick to this one. And I think fast forward from that was 2008, now 2020. It's that's still there. It's like I still have mountains to climb when it comes to the bodybuilding thing. I thoroughly enjoy everything, like from being frustrated to like the Natty gains at this point. Like both those things, like actually, like I wouldn't have it any other way almost. But I'd say the other thing is probably that, like, crap, it's like now I'm 37, and no hate on my people, because I made a very good decision for myself without necessarily knowing what I was doing. But when I decided to, you know, go start lifting weights, become a gym rat at age 16, like I look at a lot of my peers and I'm like, holy crap, like I'm so glad I did that with myself. In regards to like what it's done like for my body, like literally the only difference at this point that I feel is all the stupid shit I've done in the gym because I didn't know better. Like that is, you know, it's things that I did from ages 20 to 25. But like for the most part, it's like it feels like the exact same vessel. Not a whole lot of 37-year-olds can say that, and I appreciate that a whole lot. I appreciate my health and just what this version of bodybuilding has done for me. So, and then I see Jeff, and I'm like, fuck, like that homie's pushing 50, and you know, like no one thinks that when they see Jeff fucking walking at Walmart. They do double takes, and they're like, it's, you know, it's like I want that. And then I'm sure when I get to that age, it's going to be, Jeff is going to be like pushing 60, well, 60 at that point. And again, so like examples like him, Marshall Johnson, just those guys that it's like I actually like telling people my age, because it shows that like I've invested in myself, that I've taken care of myself, and and this is really the only way I know how, and it's my favorite way to do it. So yeah, every little thing I do, it's like going to the gym now, getting my meals in, like it's all like stopping the day to like, you know, people talk about self-care, like that's what it is to me. Like when I sit down, I eat 2 bananas and a protein shake, like that's how I take it. You know, it's like I'm
It's like your
myself a nice
facial.
big hug. Yeah,
Or your massage.
Yeah. Like I care about you, Bert. So it's worked out really well so far, and I don't want to change a thing with that formula. So so yeah, I think I'm sold on this for the foreseeable future.
Well, and it's like if you were to, either one of y'all, to start at this point in the game, you're like, it's a whole new thing to learn and master. And it sounds like, I mean, I've known y'all forever. Y'all all have some pretty big feels about the journey and the joy you get from the struggle. And not one of y'all has ever said to me, be like, I almost got this figured out, you know? And so it's like, because that's your personality, I just couldn't imagine y'all feeling like it was the end of the natural capacity and then you needed to level up or add a level of difficulty or a level of
Step
say
up the game or whatever. But yeah, I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
And like Brad, there's different versions of this game to master. Like we were talking about the Michael Jordan thing, like before this, and like if you look at Jordan, like pre-retirement, like he was very I could take it into that hoop whenever I want. And when he came back, like, he developed his mid-range shot, and it was a very different game. But it's like, he evolved with that, and surely at some point, like, things are going to change for myself, and I want to be able to make those adjustments, and I just see something beautiful. Like, there's an art to that aspect, and being able to deal with what's next. So it's just like I'm in too deep with this thing now. It's like I don't want to. No, I don't. There's a parallel universe, maybe.
And look at what we've just learned, like just in the last 5 years. We've learned about things that we didn't know about. When we talk about, I mean, back in the day, I had no idea that the natural level of testosterone dropped when you dropped body fat and when you were dieting, and when we had no idea that even happened. And so then it was kind of like when we discovered that, it was like that alone was a level up. That alone was a game changer. That alone was like, oh, okay, well now we got to do what we can to kind of keep that from happening, and we got to develop strategies to mitigate that, and so it seems like we're always presented with new information that just makes us a little bit better at what it is that we're doing.
It's like, like we go back it's like 5 years ago, like what's that review on muscle growth by Wernbaum, like it was counted in reps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you kind of know, like this, it's just so crazy that at some point we saw things like volume as like reps and rather than sets. Like, if you look at the size principle, it's like, man, we were there like 5-6 years ago. I'm like,
just recently,
Like, that's kind of embarrassing considering like how like smart we consider ourselves. But it goes to show you that it's like, but that's what we do. We constantly improve, and we want to be able to look back and be like, oh shit, like that's what we thought, and like look at us now. And so I like sweating these details, I guess, because when you do it the other way, you do have to sweat other details as well,
And it's like, it sounds like y'all are saying, like, if I was, now it's so far in this direction and this journey that it would be like a different journey. Like, if you were that decision was made, sounds like 20 something years ago for both y'all, and therefore we're going to continue this path.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, if you were going to do it, it's not like it's going to happen now. It's like that would have been then, and that would be your path. And we know plenty of people who are taking that path and doing a great job at it. It's just not yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Word.
Good summary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's hard also, or like I remember growing up, I haven't grown up even lately, like I think a lot of the bad rap comes from the public humiliation when like Olympic athletes and like Big Five sports athletes get caught. And then like the whole fucking nation is just like, they're stamped. Like that's it.
Yep.
The Lance Armstrong, Marion Jones, Mark McGuire, like they're
that's where all the bad stigma came from,
Yeah.
And it, just like most things, how does that bad stigma get started? It gets started by people not in the business, they're the ones that start pointing the fingers, and they're like, so and so's a bad person because they did that, and so's dumb and whatnot. And it's like, no, that's you're judging somebody that you know nothing about. That person, who knows what their demons were, but they wanted to win was kind of the bottom line. And all that stigma, all that gets overflowed into the entire industry as a whole,
Man, and what is it, Icarus? Oh, not just that, but like as much as people have heard how bad that is, I know that it's really common to hear that, like, well, in some sports, literally over 70% of the field does it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're the one that got caught. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, the same way that I don't know if me saying that it's so common that everybody does it is just as bad as people calling Berto that they know he's natty. Like, I don't know if it's just as bad, but.
Mm-hmm.
But see, this is what I think we can do better, like, is like a bodybuilding community, because a lot of what they do is based off like the mass hysteria that's created by the fans that don't do the sport. They just watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they don't understand that, like, when Roger Clemens, like, all of a sudden just had this surge out of nowhere in his late 30s. Like, it's like you don't get it. Like, he wasn't just like popping those pills like at home, like chilling and telling the coach, "I can't make it to practice today because he's old." Like, he was in there, like training like he was basically 22 is what happened, you know? So the average fan doesn't understand that, you know? And look, I'm not saying that was right, because actually I don't know if that was against rules, but nevertheless, okay, putting that aside, the fan they don't understand that. They don't. But like, it is a little disappointing when it's like within our community, because like we know what goes into it, you know? When we like, usually in this, it's like the fan is actually like plays the game. I think that's a huge difference. So I think we can be a little bit less black or white when it comes to that, because again,
because everyone can do a curl. Damn it.
you guys probably have the same whey protein flavors that you guys like. You guys should go talk about that, you know? Shave each other's backs, you know? It's,
that's nice.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny too. It reminds me. All right. So we had this, I come from not like a small town, but like the part. So there's like the city and like this little part of the city that I grew up in. There was like these two rival schools, right? And we always sucked at football, and the other team was always really good most of the time, at least when I was in high school. And I remember word got out in the local news somehow that someone gave, like maybe the coach gave the players, or maybe a parent gave a few of the players creatine. And so they were cheaters, right?
Mhm.
They were, you know, that's the only reason they win is because they take that creatine. How can they give it to those young boys, those 17-year-olds? And it's like literally everybody takes it now. It's like $5 for like a month's supply. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
but that's such a prime example. And like, I grew up for a few years being like, oh, well, yeah, it's because of their creatine. And it's like, oh my God, I have creatine in my body right now. I'm stupid.
I had to hide my creatine like at home, and true story.
Who thought it was cocaine?
Well, the oxypads, right? Like, you know, like remember that you used to use those
That would
for your oily
literally
teenage skin?
sting your face
It
off.
just burned the damn thing off. Yeah, like those ones. I remember I got some creatine from a friend. I put it in some. I was like 16, 17. I got a few like tablespoons. I put it in this foil, crinkled it up, and I put it in my oxypads. And I remember, like, no one's gonna find it. I'm the only one who uses them. That's what I thought. Little did I know, like, my mother every once in a while would, you know, dip into them, and she's like, "What is this?" And there was no winning. There was no winning that one.
I got stopped at the airport for my
At least it's not
creatine.
cocaine.
I got stopped at the airport one time because I had a little tub of it. And I was like, believe me, I would be so rich if this was not creatine. I would not be flying coach. But yeah,
you
so like,
think about, and like I think about, okay, so that right there is kind of one of the things that I never really thought about that kind of gave performance enhancing drugs the bad name, is because number one, the high level, there's a rule. There's a rule that says that, you know, you don't take performance enhancing drugs, or they test for it every now and then. And so that rule's been broken. And it's not so much, you know, that's demonized. It's the performance enhancing drug that's demonized, right? And so then the whole industry of using creatine or whatever it is, you know, has been demonized because that one rule was broken, you know, by that one person or whatever. And like with you, you know, was it against the rules to take creatine? No, you know, it was not. But
I literally thought it was a steroid.
Yeah.
When I was 16, because of the way it was responded to.
And all the competitiveness of the parents and everything starts getting involved, and pretty soon it's like, well, that's why they're winning. They're cheating.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
But that's cheating. Kind of contributed to that whole stigma, you know, and that whole negativity.
Yeah. So what are some things we can take from this podcast for our listeners about?
Boy, a whole lot.
About cheating and creatine. Just kidding, not about that. But like, okay, so we'll start with, how do we start the podcast? We just, you know, it's not in our mission statement, and we don't feel qualified to handle people who do that, but, and it's a choice.
But like Berto said, we'll still hang out with them. We'll still sit there in the gym and, you know, talk about our flavors of whey protein. And
but like, you probably have vegetarian friends. You probably have friends or family members who vote differently than you, or different genders, different. Just think of it that way.
Yeah. And like bodybuilding is always teaching you lessons that like you can, like, again, it's like a little safe place. It's like practice for things. It's important to us, but is it really that important? The world will continue, doing its thing without bodybuilding and lifting weights. It'd suck. Everyone would be hella weak.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when you think about it, it's like, yeah, this is one of those super polarizing topics that I don't think it has to be at all.
And if that's the choice you want to make, there's good education for it out now. Sounds like we're saying. Like pick your resources. No, we won't give you any, but they're there.
Yeah, just be careful, because I mean, I've stopped thinking I'm right about anything at this point, because it's like every 5 years, like Brad said, it's like, oh shoot, okay, never mind.
Yeah, we did that.
Idea.
Whoopsie.
So when it comes to that big decision, it's like, hey, like research, and
well, just like we say with us, when you decide to make that journey onto the stage, you're talking about an extreme sport that's not super healthy, and do your research and look at your coaches and make sure that there's a good connection there. It's kind of the same way when you decide to start going, making that personal choice to go that route, to go kind of the enhanced route or whatever you want to call it. Do your research, because just like getting uber lean is not going to be super healthy, there's more and less healthy ways to do it, right? And the same thing, if you're going to go that route, there's a certain amount of risk. There's more and less healthy ways to do it. Do your research, get your guidance. Know that there's people out there that know a whole lot more about it. That can guide you a whole lot better than you searching on Google.
Cool.
That's it.
So really, Brad, like Bob Bell never weighed your balls?
No, I can't say that I've ever had my balls weighed.
It was just you, Bert. It was just you. Just you at every show you've ever done. All right. Thanks for chatting with me, guys.
Hey guys, this is Coach Alberto Nunez. Thanks so much for listening to our show today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I wanted to take a moment to remind you guys that we have a giant video library of educational materials at 3dmjvault.com. The vault is a place where we have organized our best information, paired it up with some of our favorite resources, and shared with all of you guys in one online database. We have courses on contest prep, hypertrophy, posing, fat loss, postseason recovery, and a whole lot more. Most of it is free. Some of it is for purchase to help support this podcast, and we continue adding pieces of updated content to it every couple of months that members always have unlimited access to. Once again, that's 3dmjvault.com, and we really hope you like it.